Have you ever wondered what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar? Well, they claim
I mean,
it's
not
just
really.
a crisp wafer, but what they actually use to make it might
Is people. It's people, chat.
surprise you. You see, some
Or maybe
Kit
it's
Kats get
cats. It's
broken
actual cats. That's why they call it Kit Kat.
while they're being made, and instead of throwing them out, the company crushes them up and adds sugar, and that's what's on the inside of a Kit Kat bar.
What?
Some Kit Kats get broken while they're being made, and instead of throwing them out, the company crushes them up and adds sugar.
What the hell?
And that's what's on the inside of a Kit Kat
No
bar.
way.
It's literally crushed up Kit Kats. When you
But what's
shoot
the original? Wait a minute. But what's the original wafer, though? The original one made had to have something into it. Something must have been the first Kit Kat. That doesn't make any sense at all.
gun with a silencer on the
The first Kit Kat was created from the void, a dark place that we don't talk about.
When you shoot a gun with a silencer on the end, the bullet travels down the barrel, followed by high-pressure
It looks like they're
gases.
shooting me.
As these gases exit the barrel into the silencer, they are directed into a series of compartments. Here, the gases expand and cool, which drastically reduces their speed and pressure by the time they leave the silencer. This lowers the intensity of the shockwave, which significantly reduces the sound of the shot. Have you ever wondered why
So the gas coming out is what causes like a lot of the noise from like the explosion or whatever? That's crazy. Didn't know that.
Have you ever wondered why escalator steps have these grooves on them? Well, believe it or not, they have
I do actually. I wonder that a lot.
nothing to do with grip.
Yeah,
The reason
I thought
for
that's what
them
it was.
is actually more important than it might seem. You see, as the steps circulate, the grooves sync up with a comb plate at the top. This comb plate gets locked in by the grooves, which blocks items from getting sucked in. When an animal dies and is
Oh, so those grooves are preventing us from getting sucked. Dude, did you guys have as a kid? I was so afraid of getting sucked into the escalator. I don't know what it was. Anybody else? I feel like for some reason I still have a fear my shoes are gonna get like caught in it or something.
rapidly buried underneath the ground. It eventually gets
This
so
is how
deep
fossilization
when an
works.
animal dies and is rapidly buried underneath the ground, it eventually gets so deep that the oxygen in the air is prevented from reaching it. This significantly slows the decay of the animal, and over a long period of time, special minerals from the earth seep into the animal's body and gradually replace its organic material cell by cell. This process
that's
slowly
crazy.
changes it into stone, which is how some fossils are formed.
You know, I never really thought about it. I thought it was like the actual bone or like encased in something.
If you shoot a gun into a body of water, some people think it will completely stop the bullet. But is that actually
I kinda
true?
thought that.
Well, water is much more dense than air, and this can make the bullet rapidly lose speed and energy, usually
poor
stopping
fish.
within just a few feet. But if you threw in a grenade, this change in density has less of an effect, and it will
Well,
still
yeah.
cause a powerful underwater explosion, creating dangerous shockwaves. This is a stack of
What's interesting, I feel like explosions work kind of differently underwater, right? Because like the shockwaves and stuff. Maybe we need to find a video that's like how explosions work underwater.
This is a stack of $1 million $1 bills. It's about 50 feet higher than the
This is so random.
Statue of Liberty. $1 billion would be a lot higher, reaching 67 miles. This would just
high is this?
surpass the edge of the atmosphere.
Dude, that's crazy. It's just called dynamite fishing. True. Is that why they don't get exploded into mush? Is because it's actually the pressure, the force of the shock wave that kills them, or at least like knocks them out, and they float it to the top? Is that why it works?
Technically reaching space. Now, you might think
So like how much money? You know what? Elon just needs to get on top of his money pile to get to Mars. I feel like that would solve his issues.
Now, you might think Elon Musk's net worth of over $200 billion would reach the moon, but it doesn't even make it 7% of the way there. Even Apple's company valuation of nearly $3 trillion only makes it about
insane,
85% of the way to the moon. But if you take the current US national debt of $33 trillion,
Not the debt,
you could make it all the way to the moon and back 4.5 times.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god, what a thing to reference for that. guys, we got our new space program. Hear me out. Rip, yeah, I know. 07's in the chat for America. Jesus Christ.
Write with a ballpoint pen. A tiny ball at the tip begins to roll. Each time it rotates, a part of the ball goes back inside the barrel of the pen.
You know, I actually never knew how a pen works.
Inside, the ball picks up ink that is stored in a cartridge right above the opening. This ink is designed to flow smoothly around the ball, allowing for even distribution onto paper.
So if you dab,
3 interesting facts about
like,
candy.
the tip of it, yeah, that's crazy.
3 interesting facts about candy you didn't need to know. Number 3.
Ooh, this one I'm curious about.
Snickers bars were called marathon bars in the UK for...
I've seen marathon bars in America, actually. I was so confused at what the hell they actually were. I guess they're just Snickers. Okay, good to know.
Over 60 years. This was because the word Snickers unfortunately rhymed with the word knickers.
Is that really it? I guess if it's pretty common. That's so funny. Just for rhyming, I feel like lots of things rhyme with sussy things. All right, let's continue.
Which is a British term for ladies' underwear. Number 2, have you ever wondered why each M&M is stamped with an M? Well, it's actually because of this other...
Not really. I thought they... I guess... Well, I guess no one asked, right? That was the premise of this, but...
very similar candy called Smarties. You see,
yes. I don't think Americans know about this one. You guys don't have this, right?
Back in the 50s, M&Ms didn't want there to be any confusion between which product you were consuming, so they branded theirs.
So what happened? Why aren't Smarties in America anymore? That would be an interesting thing to know, actually.
With an M. Number 1, Skittles are also branded
Why y'all just putting letters on things, guys?
With an S. And for some reason, if you put them in water, the S actually detaches and floats off of the Skittle. After colliding with the iceberg.
Why is that kind of gnarly? Are we just eating, like, paper S's when we eat Skittles? What is that? I wonder what they're made out of. I need elaboration.
After colliding with the iceberg, a man calmly helped load lifeboats and eventually threw reluctant passengers into safety. But instead of securing his own spot,
he's a real one.
The man returned to his cabin for another drink. When the ship finally sank,
what a legend.
He stepped off the stern, plunging into the icy waters. The alcohol in his system kept him calm, and the man claimed it's what kept him alive. Finally, a lifeboat rescued him, and despite the freezing temperatures, the man survived with little more than swollen feet.
That's crazy.
Imagine waking up...
Because I know a lot of people froze to death. So the secret is, guys, if the boat's going down, just get absolutely hammered. Just like the captain probably was. That's the secret. Life hack, 100% life hack. Never drown again. Simply be an alcoholic.
Imagine waking up in a coffin and realizing that you were mistakenly buried alive. Now, this wouldn't happen with the medical guidelines we have today. But in the 19th century, old coffins were found with scratch marks on the inside, making this a legitimate concern. So as a solution, they started adding strings inside the coffins that traveled up to the ground and were connected to a little bell. And if you woke up underground in a coffin, you could just ring the bell, signaling that you're still alive.
Well, that works.
If you're stuck in a water slide...
That works, I guess. Imagine you dig up like a coffin or something, you find scratch. That is so messed up. How terrifying would it be, though, if you see that, like, you're in the graveyard or something and you see the bell is ringing, you know? I feel like I'd be like, not today, Satan.
That's filling up with water, most people think they should try to climb back up. But the slippery surface makes this nearly impossible. Instead, focus on staying calm and try to create space for air by tilting your
hold up
head.
a second.
If you're stuck in a water slide that's filling up with water, most people think they should try to climb back up. But the slippery surface makes this nearly impossible. Instead, focus on staying calm and try to create space for air by tilting your head back. If water keeps rising, use your hands to push yourself forward. If you can't move, brace yourself as the water fills the slide entirely. Once the pressure equalizes, you may be able to push forward and float to safety.
If the slide is filling up, that means it's plugged at the bottom. If the water is being blocked by you, then like it'll just go over you at some point. You know what I mean? Like if you're just stuck. But like if the slide's filling up, that means it's plugged at the bottom. What do you mean? Just go to where it's plugged and flooding? Like that's just... Dude, I feel like you gotta start climbing back up. I feel like that's what you gotta do, man. I don't know, or I honestly just stay where you are. God, that's terrifying.
Wondered why the letter E isn't used to grade? Teachers use A,
That's,
B,
you know, I
C,
never thought about that. I've never thought about but why? Yeah, like question.
D, and F, but they skip E. Why is this? Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. You see, back in the day, schools did use the letter E, but in the 1930s, they decided to stop after students and parents thought that it meant excellent. It was quickly replaced with F, because
Are you serious? That's why?
F for failed made more sense.
Oh, that's so funny, actually.
If you plucked out...
People are so silly, right? I mean, it makes sense. Like, my mind would probably go there too, weirdly.
A single strand of your hair, it could hold about 40 pennies without breaking. But if you braid just half of all your hair into a rope, the combined strength could hold up a large SUV. And
is that true?
You add in all of your hair into the rope, it could withstand about 15 metric tons, which is about the weight of a young gray whale.
No way. No way, right? No way. But if this is true, that's actually nuts. That's actually nuts.
When you pump gas in your
car, we need to start making people rope.
There's this tiny hole connected to a valve that sucks.
Not true. I have a shockingly large amount of hair now.
When you pump gas in your car, there's this tiny hole connected to a valve that sucks in air. This air intake keeps the fuel flowing smoothly as it fills your car. But as soon as the tank is full, the gas covers this hole, stopping the airflow and creating a vacuum inside. And this change in pressure triggers the pump to stop the flow of gas. If you shoot at bulletproof glass, the outer layer absorbs the impact and shatters. But under this is a tough plastic sheet.
True, I have always been curious how this works.
That acts as a web catching the shattered glass. The energy is then evenly distributed across the surface, which reduces the bullet's force. And if that isn't enough to stop it, there's another layer of glass backed by more plastic that ensures the bullet would not make it all the way through.
I feel like would only work for like weaker rounds though, right? I guess it depends how many layers you got.
Most people think soda tabs have this hole so you can turn it around and stick a straw through it. This prevents the straw from bobbing around, keeping it in place.
Is that
true? While this is a pretty handy trick, it isn't the actual reason for this hole. You see, the original soda tabs had a hole big enough to stick your finger through. And this was because in the original design, you literally had to peel and pull the can open. Now, when soda companies switched to this new design, they kept the hole as a relic from the older tabs, and also because it saves on aluminum.
Okay, so they're just cheap, but they want to spend less aluminum. I thought, dude, I've never considered putting a straw through that hole. There's a lot of holes I've considered not putting straws in, but that one is surprisingly also on the list.
Shot a gun at another gun, and the bullets happen to collide.
Ah, yes, as we call it, the American handshake.
They would most likely shatter due to the high-speed impact. But sometimes, if the bullets are made of the same material and the conditions were just right, the intense heat...
Me when I'm touching tips with the homies.
and pressure of the collision could cause the bullets to fuse together into one lump of metal. If you
Oh.
poured a bunch of
I mean, I guess that makes sense because of the heat.
Earths. If you poured a bunch of Earths inside the sun, they say it can
Excuse me.
hold 1.3 million of them. But
That's
this
a lot of Earths.
calculation is actually wrong. You see, this figure is just taking the volume of each Earth to fill the sun, almost like a liquid. But that doesn't take into account that the Earth is a sphere, and that there would be space between each one. Now, if you factor in this
They're just
packing
doing like
density,
mass.
instead
That
of
makes sense.
1.3 million, it would actually only take about 960,000.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
You've probably noticed that
Good, that's much better. Dude, space facts are nuts, honestly. I avoid them. They make me existential. They're too crazy, you know what I mean? Like, oh my goodness. 5 bajillion Earths. It's like, how do I even process that information?
when you shave hair, you've probably noticed that when you shave hair on your body, it grows back thicker. But is this actually true? Well, when you shave, you're cutting the hair at the skin's surface where it's more dense. And during this, the razor gives the remaining hair a blunt end. Because of this, the hair feels denser and more stubbly once it grows back. But it isn't actually thicker. It just feels different because the texture was changed. It has 8-inch
Oh. That's crazy. Is that why stubble feels so chunky compared to like when it's grown out? Like it feels so. That's crazy if true. Inside the beast. So this is like the presidential limo or whatever.
It has 8-inch armor plating and 5-inch thick windows that can stop any bullet.
That's
this
crazy.
is the president's personal car, known as the Beast. You'll get a huge electric shock through the handle if you try to open this car door.
Dude, they have electrified handles. It's crazy.
That's not enough. It can release an oil slick to send enemy
No
vehicles
way.
skidding out of control.
What is it,
The
James
Beast's
Bond?
interior can be sealed for chemical attacks, and its tires can even roll
Whoa.
when flat. It also carries blood matching the president's type and its own oxygen supply, ensuring the
What
highest
the
level
hell?
of security.
What the hell? It has blood in there too? That's crazy. I didn't know that. That's nuts. I want to see the thickness of
It
the.
has 8-inch armor plating and 5-inch thick windows
Wow.
that can stop
5
any
inches.
bullet. This is the president's personal
That's
car,
crazy.
known as the Beast. You'll get a huge electric. Have you ever wondered
Did they turn the shock off? And I guess so, right? They must. How many times do you think a president's been shocked by that thing then? Just use RP. Oh my god.
why clothes get darker when they're wet? I mean, water isn't dark, so why does it make clothes darker? Well,
This is such a stupid question, but like, I don't know the answer to it. You know what I mean? I assume just because it becomes denser.
ever wondered why clothes get darker when they're wet? I mean, water isn't dark,
I've
so why
never
does it
thought
make
about it.
clothes darker? Well, the reason we can see fabric in the first place is because it reflects light. But when water is poured onto fabric, it becomes more translucent, and the gaps between the fibers shrink. This causes the fabric
yeah,
to
so dense.
absorb more light instead of reflecting it. And this decrease in light reflection is why it looks darker when it's wet.
Huh.
Why do we call this a W?
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. I feel like if I was the president, I'd prank my friends too. I'd be like, "Oh yeah, go on, get in," and they'd be like, "Ah!" You know they're doing that. You know Trump's definitely doing that. 100%.
Why do we call this a W when it's clearly a double V? I mean, yes, sometimes it's expressed as 2 U's, but most of the time it's represented as 2 V's. Why is this? Well, back
What are these questions? These are amazing.
in the day, the Latin alphabet didn't have a symbol for the W sound, so scribes used 2 U's or 2 V's to represent it. This symbol became pretty popular over time and was known as the double U. But when printing
Hold up.
symbol 2 U's or 2 V's Well, back in the day, the Latin alphabet didn't have a symbol for the W sound, so scribes used two U's or two V's to represent it. This symbol became pretty popular over time, and
so
was
people
known
were
as
just
the
like, this is just the
W.
letter
But
now.
when printing came along, something happened. It's unclear
Dude, that's
exactly
crazy.
what, but this letter began to look more like a double V. Even so, we still called them W's because, well, tradition. You ever get lost in a store even though you've been there 100 times? Well, here's why that is. It's known as the Gruen transfer, and it's
What?
actually a psychological trick. Stores will often put their high-demand products in the back of the building, so you'll have to walk through several aisles to get there. And as you're attempting to get through this maze, you stumble across different items. This makes you lose track of what you came for, nudging you towards impulse purchases. Wondered why milk jugs have these dimples on the side? Well, believe it or not, they actually serve a functional purpose. You see, the dimples give the jug more flexibility, which can prevent it from exploding if it's dropped. And if you ever see the dimple pushed out in the fridge, it most likely means the milk has gone bad. Have you ever wondered why chip bags...
I didn't know that. That's crazy. I guess that makes sense. Double. Yeah. It's interesting because like casinos do that too. It's really interesting. Like it makes sense that you put the demand stuff at the back so people get distracted. But yeah, some places can be pretty big labyrinths, to be honest. Walmarts aren't like super bad necessarily, but there are some stores that are like big craft stores I find are like absolute maze nightmares. Also, the milk thing blew my mind.
Have you ever wondered why chip bags have so much air in them? Well, some people think it's a trick to make it seem like there are more chips inside.
To be clear, it definitely is, because I know companies' minds.
But that's actually not true. The real
It's a part
reason
of
for
it.
the overinflated bags might surprise you. You see, the air in the bag is actually a gas called nitrogen, and nitrogen keeps the chips fresh while making sure they
It's all nitro in there?
don't get crushed. This is an F-Zero This is an F-Zero tornado, and it could knock over your trash can and possibly damage some of your gutters. Now, an F1 tornado can damage a garage.
I never knew the tornado scale.
And peel some shingles off your roof. F2 tornadoes can lift a car into the air and uproot a large tree in your yard. An F3 tornado is so extreme that it can remove the entire top story of your house. And an F4 or F5 tornado is so powerful, it can completely reduce an entire house into rubble and devastate pretty much anything in its path. Have you ever wondered?
I feel like a tiny tornado would just be interesting then, wouldn't it?
Have you ever wondered why most fast food chains don't sell hot dogs? Well, believe it or not, McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King have all tried to.
True. McDonald's doesn't have a hot dog. Why McDonald's doesn't sell hot dogs? Okay, good question.
The past. And the reason it didn't work mostly had to do with efficiency. You see, cooking hot dogs and keeping them warm is actually pretty difficult compared to burgers. And because they didn't want to plop a rolling machine next to their soda dispenser, hot dogs never really stuck around.
Oh. It's literally just like
compared to burgers. And because they...
Well, I guess because you just leave the burger frozen. Then you fry it, and then you just chuck it in the thing and you leave it there, but not for very long. What's the difference? I guess you can just leave it, and you can't leave hot dogs around because they're like chemical nightmares. I don't know. Interesting. It needs more elaboration.